My name's Tyler Martin, and I'm going to go over the pros and cons of living in Tyler, Texas from somebody's perspective who's been here almost 30 years. So stay tuned. Let's go through all the good, the bad, the ins and outs of what it's like to live in Tyler, Texas. One of the benefits of living in Tyler, Texas is it takes about 15 to 20 minutes to get from anywhere. If you're coming from the southernmost area in Tyler, going all the way to the north side, maybe to visit the zoo or UT Health, something like that, you're looking at no more than 15 to 20 minutes to get to about anywhere. So if you're coming from a big city where traffic's a big concern, it takes forever to go 5 miles, then Tyler's really going to be a breath of fresh air. The roads, for the most part, move pretty clear, pretty free and easy to go from place to place. So traffic and commute and things like that allow a lot of flexibility on where you live and what you do. So one of the things that I love most about Tyler is it marries that sense of a small town with big city amenities. We've got a lot of traditions and history with things like the East Texas State Fair, the Rose Parade, Friday night high school football. But we also have a lot of choice in terms of amenities with restaurants, entertainment to an extent, and things that we don't have to go to the Metroplex for to experience. So being in a small town is really great when you have all that tradition, but it also allows you the flexibility to enjoy some of the things in terms of food choice, entertainment with live music, and that sort of thing that you don't get in a lot of other towns of this size. So one of the benefits of living in Tyler is that there's going to be a ton of choice for schools. And that's one of the biggest concerns I talk to a lot of people about when they're moving this way is what school district do we live in? Coming from education and knowing the ins and outs of schools, I know there's a lot of great options and a lot of variety of options. If you're looking at a charter school, which is basically a public school with a unique or different curriculum than what you might find in a bigger public school, those options are available. If you're looking for a Christian private school, those options are available. We've got, I think, 4 private schools. We've got a handful of charter schools. And then the public school options are also really great. TISD, being a bigger district, has a lot of money and a lot of funds to be able to develop programs that you're not going to find at some of the outer and surrounding districts just because of resources. And to me, that's really one of the biggest draws of TISD is it gives you a lot of different ways to fit in at school, whether it's in auto mechanics, whether it's video game design, football, baseball, swimming, all those types of options and many, many more are available at the bigger schools. But if you're not as worried about some of those more unique aspects of school, the surrounding areas like Glendale, Bullard, White House, Brownsboro are really great options that are no more than like a 10 to 15 minute drive to Tyler. So it keeps you close to everything that Tyler has, but it also gives you a lot more options beyond if you want to fit into a little bit smaller setting. Another big draw about Tyler is the proximity to the 2 lakes that we have here. Lake Palestine is about 10 to 15 minutes on the southwest side of Tyler. Lake Tyler is about 15 to 20 minutes depending on what part of the lake you're going to on the east side of Tyler. Comparing the two, Lake Palestine is a much bigger lake. You do have areas for skiing, tubing, that kind of thing. But it's also a fishing lake in a lot of spots because there are stumps and things like that in parts of it where it's just not as recommended for those type of activities. Truthfully, Lake Tyler may be a better option for that. In terms of homes and things like that, you've got a lot of really incredible homes that sit on Lake Palestine that are multi-million-dollar properties, tons of features, amenities, things like that within the community. But you also have on certain parts of the lake a lot of unrestricted housing, and that can lead to older homes, homes not being as well kept, reducing the value of property on that side of the lake. Lake Tyler is a much more clean and restricted area to where the housing and whatnot is very well maintained. You don't have some of the older homes that you might see on Lake Palestine. So if you're looking for a house on Lake Tyler, largely those lots and homes are going to be a little bit more expensive relative to those on Lake Palestine. But having close proximity to those 2 lakes is really a great option if you're into that outdoor stuff. We even have Lake Fork about an hour north of Tyler where they host a pro bass fishing tournament, I think twice a year. It's really kind of the mecca of East Texas for fishing more specifically. So if that's something you're interested in, it's also not very far from Tyler. Another one of the major attractions in Tyler are the 2 large hospitals with UT Health and Christus Trinity Mother Francis. It's a big part of our community in terms of employment, tons of nurses, doctors, hospital support staff. things like that. But we're also building a new medical school that's expected to bring in another $1 billion in revenue to the local economy. So it's very significant in that regard. One of the things that I think a lot of people are concerned about when moving to the area is good care. And the truth is, Tyler is going to be about as good as you can get unless you move to the major metropolitan areas like Houston or Dallas. All the surrounding communities, even from Longview and things like that, will move to Tyler just because of the great healthcare. We have tons of specialists in every type of thing that you might be concerned about. We don't have to outsource that stuff to the Metroplex and places like that as much as some other small communities. So if one of the things you're concerned about is good healthcare, Tyler definitely has that covered. So one of the great features of Tyler is the affordability. What you can pay for a house and what that will get you in terms of size and space with land is going to be significantly greater than you're going to find in the metropolitan areas like Houston, Dallas, San Antonio, Austin, or even those places along the West Coast that are very expensive. Additionally, property taxes here and the tax rates are going to be lower than they are in those big areas, just because we don't have the same expenses and things like that that they have to account for. So if you're looking for more home, more space with land, Tyler is going to provide a lot of options and things like that that those big places just typically don't. So one of the complaints that I have living here is going to be the traffic. And relatively speaking, it's not that bad. My drive with no traffic from home to work is about 10 minutes. When traffic's a factor, it's probably 15, maybe 20 minutes in the worst cases, but it's really not that significant. Going down South Broadway on Saturdays, Friday afternoon, evenings, it's really going to be a little bit worse than most other times, but that's about the extent of the areas that we have problems with traffic. Tyler was a town that was not necessarily designed to have this much traffic and congestion and things like that, so it is going to be a little bit more compacted in those types of areas where all the stuff is. So when you're heading south, just expect a little bit more there. But if you're coming from a big town or big city rather, that's really not going to be a big concern because it's a very relative issue. Our traffic here compared to towns of 4,000 or 5,000 people is going to be a little bit worse. But if you're coming from Dallas or Los Angeles, those type of places, it really pales in comparison. It is a non-factor. So one of the cons to living in Tyler, Texas is we don't have a lot of nightlife. So if you're in your early to mid 20s or even later than that, and you do like to go out to clubs and things like that, you're going to have limited options here in Tyler. That's not to say there's zero, but there's not going to be as many as you're going to have in the Dallas area. We do have a decent variety of those types of bars and things like that where you can go and meet people and hang out. One of the downsides is that most of it will close at midnight. I think on Saturdays it's open until 1. But truly, we do lack a big nightlife scene just because that's not the demographic of people that live and support that you're going to see in the bigger areas like Dallas, Houston, and that kind of thing. One of the complaints I've got from a lot of people coming from the West Coast or Southwest areas that our Mexican food really isn't that good. And it is not a traditional, authentic style of Mexican food. So if that was your expectation, it's probably not going to meet that. A little bit more, I think, tomatoey, more peppery, things like that. So our salsas are a little bit thicker. Queso is a big portion of Tex-Mex as well. But we do have plenty of really great authentic Mexican restaurants as well. My favorite is probably Ruby's. I just discovered it maybe a year or so ago, but it's excellent. And it's actually very affordable too, relative to a lot of those other Tex-Mex places that we have here. To me, our Mexican that we as Texans like and appreciate is definitely a different style. I do prefer it to authentic Mexican food, I think. But to me, they are very different. So if your expectation of Mexican food is authentic Mexican food, we do have those options and actually have a lot of really good ones. Don Juan's is another one. It's kind of an iconic restaurant here in town. But our style is more Tex-Mex, so that's going to make up the bulk of what we call Mexican restaurants. So that kind of gives you the good and bad of living in Tyler, Texas from somebody's perspective who's lived here a long time. I hope that you found this valuable and informative. If you have any additional questions, shoot me a message. We've got our phone number and email attached in the banner. We're going to shout out the FOMAR for letting us use this beautiful site, event center, wedding venue. It's a wonderful place. I'll have a link in the description as well if you want to check it out. But for me, Tyler's really as good as it gets. It marries the perfect balance of a small town feel with big city amenities, but also remains very close to every city in Texas. So if you've got more questions or you're interested, make sure you like and subscribe to our channel. Stay tuned as we break down more of the city and East Texas in general.